Welcome to my July reading wrap-up and the reveal for the August reading challenge theme. To start with, I read not too much outside of the reading challenge this time, which was simply J July and reading authors with names that begin with J. So the two outliers of that challenge were two little novellas. There is a third one in this little mini trilogy, which I think I will pick up very soon. There isn't a physical copy from the library, but I should be able to get it on Libby. It's The Lies of the Ajungo and The Truth of the Aleke. The first one is set in a world where people are struggling. Their civilization doesn't have enough water and it's rationed by the people in charge, and once you reach the age of 13 you have to give up your tongue in order for the rulers to hand over the water that your community needs. They offer a sacrifice and a payment in order to get the water. But there is one character that decides to leave before that happens, goes out into the desert and tries to find water somewhere to bring back to his community and save his mother. And along the way he does meet some new people and finds out some truths and lies about the people in charge and the legendary Ajungo. This was really well done. They packed a lot into a very short novella. This one was under 100 pages, and the detail and the level of story they were able to tell was really wonderful. I very much enjoyed this. I would recommend. It's a really short, easy read. I gave this first one 4.5 stars. And the second one was still very well done. Again, packed a lot into a very short story. This one was 100 pages. I enjoyed this one slightly less, but I still gave it 4 stars. And this one is set quite a few years after the events of this one, so you see how the aftermath of the ending of the first one impacts the civilization and how there are still actually a lot of lies and corruption going on. But I would highly recommend these two novellas, and I'm very much looking forward to reading the third. As for the reading challenge books, I was able to read 3 of them this time. I didn't really get through as much as I wanted to. We were away for the first week and a half of July, so had slightly less reading time. But of what I did read, firstly, I finished Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. So we have the main character, Thomas Senlin, is going on his honeymoon with his new bride, and they decide to visit the Tower of Babel. They've heard many stories about its wonder and go to investigate and explore the tower. on arriving, his wife is lost. We don't know whether she just gets taken or loses her way. So he ascends into the Tower of Babel to try to find her. But he soon realizes that the tower and its people aren't quite what they seem. And it doesn't quite live up to the wondrous, amazing stories that he's heard about the tower. I did really enjoy this. I also listened to a bit of the audiobook just to help me get through it on those days when I didn't have as much time to sit down and physically read. Audiobooks are just a great way of getting through stories when I'm needing to do chores and different things. So the audiobook was very well done, and it was very easy to get through this. I think if I continue the series, I would definitely do it through the audiobooks. I did ultimately give this 3.75 stars. I did really enjoy it, but I don't know if I enjoyed it enough to continue with the series. There are 3 more books in this quadrilogy, so I don't know if I enjoyed it enough to fully commit to sitting down and reading these, but if I did feel compelled to carry on, I would definitely listen to the audiobooks to help me get through. As I say, it was a very enjoyable read. I think I would still recommend this, but I don't know, it just didn't quite give me as much excitement and adventure as I wanted. And as much as I'm a little intrigued to know the secrets of the tower and what the other levels of the tower hold, I just wasn't really compelled enough to carry on. The next book I read was The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This has a lovely hardcover sound. Just appreciate that for a moment. I was really excited to read this, as it's just on one of those lists of classic horror novels. This was published in the 1950s, I believe, so it's a bit older than I at first thought. However, it's one of those original haunted house stories, and I just wanted to see what it was all about and how it's kind of inspired more recent and modern haunted house tales. I also know this has been adapted a few times. The main one that I had in my head was the 1999 movie The Haunting with Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones. However, I think that somewhat worked against me because I had the ending of the movie in my head the whole time, and I was really interested to see how the book and the film compared. I imagined that they fabricated a lot of stuff in the film and took it away from where the book actually went, but unfortunately there actually wasn't any kind of conclusion in this book in the first place. Nothing really happened in the end. There was no great reveal or revelation as to what was behind the spooky goings on, or any kind of history or backstory to the people that used to live here and the man that actually kind of built and made the house. So I was just waiting for that, and it didn't happen. So ultimately I just ended up being a little bit disappointed by the end. So I did only give this 3.25 stars. Whilst I was reading it, it was enjoyable enough. The characters are pretty likeable for the most part. Their dynamic between one another is great, and there are some spooky goings on throughout the book, and some of them I kind of recognised from things that did happen in the film. But ultimately, yeah, the ending just didn't do anything. It didn't tell you anything about the ghostly things that were happening, and I just kind of wanted something, some kind of explanation, some kind of story. And I guess maybe it's just more of an ambiguous ending, and some people might like that and they can kind of draw their own conclusions, but I think I was just looking for something more. So I did somewhat enjoy it. The ending was disappointing for me. I don't know if I would recommend this, to be honest, but if this is your genre and you want to consume everything, then it's probably a good thing to read, just as a means to consume one of the original haunted house stories. And finally, I read The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This was pretty much as good as I wanted it to be. I gave this 4.5 stars. There are a few characters, a few POVs that you follow. They're all really compelling, really interesting. There is a lot of action and violence and a bit of sort of mythology and gods sprinkled in there. I did really enjoy the world and the lore that John Gwynne has created for this story. And all of those people that complimented him on the way he writes battle scenes were 100% correct. Those scenes were actually really enjoyable. He writes them in a detailed way, but it's also kind of simplistic, but without being simple. It's easy to follow, but there's plenty of action happening. He makes it very easy to follow, to understand. Just, yeah, the way he writes those scenes is very compelling and detailed enough without being overly detailed and boring. I think he just gets the balance right between the battle scenes and the violence, but also the character development and the relationship between the characters. He just really has the balance right between everything. And there are 3 main POVs, which there's enough change and story to keep you engaged, but not so much that it gets overly complicated and kind of lose yourself. It was very, very good, as good as I wanted it to be, and I will continue with the series. Moving on to the August Reading Challenge theme. This time I have decided to do Alliteration August. So the author names are going to be alliterative. Starting with Naomi Novik, and Deadly Education. This appears to be a nice short book, but it is the start of another trilogy. I seem to be starting a few within these reading challenges and not necessarily completing them yet, so I could just be making a rod for my own back here. But there's a lot of these stories that I'm very interested to read. But if they don't grip me immediately, then I can DNF the series. Let's read a bit of the blurb on the back. Everyone loves Orion Lake. Everyone else, that is. Far as I'm concerned, he can keep his flashy combat magic to himself. I'm not joining his pack of adoring fans. I don't need help surviving the Scholomance, even if they do. Forget the hordes of monsters and cursed artifacts. I'm probably the most dangerous thing in the place. Just give me a chance and I'll level mountains and kill untold millions, make myself the Dark Queen of the world. At least that's what the world expects. Most of the other students in here would be delighted if Orion killed me like one more evil thing that's crawled out of the drains. Sometimes I think they want me to turn into the evil witch they assume I am. The school certainly does. But the Scholomance isn't getting what it wants from me, and neither is Orion Lake. I may not be anyone's idea of the shining hero, but I'm going to make it out of this place alive, and I'm not going to slaughter thousands to do it either. Although I'm giving serious consideration to just one. So yes, a dark academia school setting where clearly there's not much chance of you graduating or getting out alive. I've heard really good things about this series, so I am excited to dive in. Next up is another short one, so I should hopefully get through this one. And it is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is not an author I've read from before, and I think this might be a more sort of horror-leaning novella, but let's read what it says. Rosemary meets Ash at the farmer's market. Ash, precise, pretty, and practically perfect, sells bars of soap in delicate pastel colours, sprinkled, spackled cupcakes, stacked on scalloped stands, beeswax candles, jelly jars of honey, and glossy green plants. Ro has never felt this way about another woman. With Ash, she wants to be her and have her in equal measure, but as her obsession with Ash consumes her, she may find she's not the one doing the devouring. Told in lush, delicate prose, this is a deliciously dark tale of passion taking an unsavoury turn. That sounds interesting. Slightly out of what I would usually read, but these challenges are around to introduce me to authors and stories that maybe I wouldn't have normally picked up. As I say, it's so small, I'm really hoping I can get to this one, and I'm still exploring sort of horror and horror-leaning books this year, so this will be a good addition. Next up is one I definitely want to get to because I really want to complete this duology now that I've read the first one this year. So our next alliterative author is Rebecca Ross, and I really want to read Ruthless Vows this month and complete this duology. The first one was so good that I really need to finish this now. And then maybe I could go into Wild Reverence, as that is a standalone story, but it's set in the same world, all of the same gods and goddesses. The next one I have in mind is by Rebecca Roanhorse, and that is Black Sun. Another start to a trilogy. I fear that I'm really setting myself up for failure here, but again, another one that I've had on my radar for a while. And so this reading challenge gives me the excuse to include Rebecca Roanhorse in the lineup. A god will return when the earth and sky converge under the black sun. In the holy city of Tova, the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration and renewal, but this year it coincides with a solar eclipse, a rare celestial event prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city, bound for Tova, and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Delilah, is a disgraced teak whose song can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries one passenger. Described as harmless, the passenger, Serapio, is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Delilah well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being the villain. Finally, the last one is the most ambitious on this list. I really would like to get through it, but I'm not sure if I will. I'm not sure I'll find the time to complete it. But it is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. It is so big. It is so intimidating. I have previously read The Prairie of the Orange Tree and I really loved it. I was partly helped along with that by the audiobook, so I think I could possibly do the same with this one. Do a combination of physical reading and audiobook. But it's actually been a long time since I read Prairie of the Orange Tree, and this is a prequel to those events in that world, so I think I would like to read it again. My hope eventually is to read this, and then I think the next one in the series, they each kind of stand alone, but they fall sequentially in the timeline. So this is the first one, then I believe the next one is the much shorter book, which I also have a copy of, and the name has completely escaped me. among the burning flowers. That's it, I think. And then Priory comes after that. So if I read this and get through it, then I might be able to move on to the next one and then reread Priory. And then I will have caught up with everything in this world from Samantha Shannon. Tanuva Melim is a sister of the Priory. For 50 years she has trained to slay worms, but none have appeared since the Nameless One, and the younger generation is starting to question the Priory's purpose. To the north, in the Queendom of Innis, Sabran the Ambitious has married the new king of Throth, narrowly saving both realms from ruin. Their daughter, Glorian, trails in their shadow exactly where she wants to be. The dragons of the east have slept for centuries. Dumai has spent her life in a Sikanese mountain temple, trying to wake the gods from their long slumber. Now someone from her mother's past is coming to upend her fate. When the Dreadmount erupts, bringing with it an age of terror and violence, these women must find the strength to protect humankind from a devastating threat. Lots going on in this world, a lot of characters to follow. But I really enjoyed the first one, so I can only imagine that this is going to be just as good. I'm sure it will take me a long time, and it's just so huge. I may have to start right now, because it might just take me all month to finish it. That's everything I've read and want to read. If you want to, as always, you can join me in this reading challenge. Pick some books by these authors or find some other alliterative authors for yourself. I hope whatever you read is enjoyable, and I will see you next time.